Hi, good morning. That's right. Colorado's first congressional district is the latest to see a shift to the far left. Voters ousted Democratic Representative Diana DeGette in favor of political newcomer Milot Quiros in the primary. It marks a major generational shift as well. DeGette came to Congress in 1997, only months before 29-year-old Quiros was born. Quiros, a Democratic socialist, supports Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, and ending U.S. military funding for Israel. Her victory comes after several far-left candidates in New York wrapped up a series of wins in last week's primaries. She indicates there is more of where that came from.
We will not wait to take the fight to Donald Trump and the oligarchy. We will not wait. We will not wait to abolish ICE. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and AIPAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
Far-left Twitch streamer Hassan Piker is backing up those sentiments. Piker is outspokenly anti-Israel and has minimized the October 7th attacks. He's also said America deserved 9/11. He's been campaigning heavily for all DSA candidates, including Quiros.
I think progressive politics, left populism, a politics that centers the needs of the working class can work in every district, in every state. That's why I kept saying over and over again, it's coming to a city near you.
But the progressive movement hit somewhat of a speed bump, too, on Tuesday. Democratic incumbent Senator John Hickenlooper was able to fend off a challenge from 43-year-old State Senator Julie Gonzalez. Hickenlooper says this was likely his final campaign for elected office.
I think it's fitting. I like it. People are like, oh, well, this is all happening on America's 250th birthday, and it's terrible. And it is. The birthright citizenship decision yesterday was terrible. And the communists winning are terrible, if you look at it that way. But there's white pills everywhere, if you know where to look. And here's what I'd say is America has always been a fighting people. We've always had evil to fight against, always. We've had really tough battles in this country, and this is just another one. And it falls to you and I, and it falls to the actual patriots who are in control right now in this nation to do something about it. And what are we going to do? What are our ancestors going to think about us? The ones who fought and broke their bones, bodies, bled for this nation. What are they going to think about us? Are we just going to allow invasion of our ancestral homeland? You know, you don't have to allow that. Many people do. That's just kind of the story of history. But it doesn't have to be us. We don't have to allow that. The Supreme Court has made their decision. Now let them enforce it, right? Like, we can talk about solutions here, and Stephen Miller was on Fox News last night already talking about the solutions, but you can see the problem. It is screaming at us in the face. We're going to need to have some major conversations about what it means to be an American. What is an American? And it's conversations that have been uncomfortable for generations, that have taken, I think, for granted the correct and righteous decisions of our forefathers to limit immigration to this country to peoples that would be harmonious with our culture. And we were betrayed for the last 3 subsequent generations, starting, I think, in 1965, but right after the post-Great World Wars, we were betrayed. That was the advent of Marxist globalism. It seeded directly into our nation and opened the floodgates for third world migration into this nation that bring foreign ideologies. And now you're watching it take root. I mean, the communists just conquered Colorado yesterday. We had Tina Peters on the show just a couple days ago. Communists conquered Colorado. Oh, it's just that communism is just a thing that happens in China and Cuba, right? Those are funny countries. Don't quite understand those countries, but whatever. They're not really threats to us, are they? Maybe some small pockets of Brooklyn or Los Angeles, but not the heartland, not the middle of the country. This is America, after all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a communist defeated not a blue dog Democrat, not some squishy like Republican vote with the GOP. A communist defeated one of the most radical members of the Democrat Party, one of the most entrenched and consistently left-wing members of the Democrat Party last night, 15-year incumbent, sending a message that no one is safe. And now the party is freaking out over all of this. They are losing their minds. The Democrat establishment is facing a wave of third worldism that they brought upon themselves, and it is up to us to now take strategic moves, to be smart, to not waste precious time or political capital on pointless foreign wars, on military adventurism, on influences from outside of our nation, whatever they may be. I hate them all. Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Israel. I hate the foreign influence on our country that clouds the mind, that poisons the heart against the will of the American people. I hate it all. All those nations can sink into the sea as far as I'm concerned. Why? Because I'm not going to raise my kids there. This is none of my concern. I mean, honestly, I hope like the best. I hope for peace on earth, but that's not reality. The best reality that I can ask for is peace in my homeland. But we're bringing over, as a matter of policy, the third world blood oath grudges of thousands of years. I mean, we're celebrating 250-year anniversary of America, and we're all proud of ourselves, and we should be. It's awesome. But do you understand that the populations and the people we're bringing over here from, let's say, Ethiopia, so it's the Ethiopian communists that won in Colorado, that Ethiopia has been around like the time of Christ. They're talking about Ethiopians in the Old Testament. It's King Solomon, right? The Queen of Ethiopia. Like, you're talking about millennia before America was founded. And we're bringing those people over, and their blood grudges and tribal warfare and practices that are against Western civilization, which is defined how? Equal representation before the law. These nations don't have it. They don't have it in Islam. That doesn't exist. That nobody is created special. All men are created equal. That there are no special people by blood. No, that each soul is unique and judged righteously before God individually. There is no special covering. There's equal justice for the guilty and mercy to the innocent. We don't participate in blood libels here, but we bring in people that do. Clans and tribes that make this country worse, dirtier, dingier, filthier, stranger, more foreign, less trusting. And we reduce our once shared tradition of a high trust society to the warfare and hellscapes of the places that we import. And now you're seeing that ravage the Democrat Party. They wish to do the same thing to our entire nation. So this is a wake-up call, and I'm thankful for it. And perhaps we'll stop being such bullheaded jackasses in attacking our own party, which is our only vector to defeat these people, and accept our differences and our own failures, of which I have many. Certainly not perfect in all of this, but I try and keep my head above water, a chip on my shoulder, a stiff upper lip, and marching forward onto victory without getting distracted by all the bickering and drama and insufferability of the people that don't understand what time it is. This is what time it is. The time of the communist is upon us. And the nation will be either destroyed by communism or we will destroy the communists. Those are the only two options. There is not a middle ground. The orcs cannot live in the Shire. And if an orc is born in the Shire, that doesn't suddenly make him a hobbit. You understand? All right, ladies and gentlemen, a little lecture off the top here. It is Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. This will be our last show before the 4th of July. And it is a banger. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Beau French, who is going to be a very highly victorious and winning Texas railroad commissioner, but who has some really sharp takes on immigration and what's happening in the state of Texas. Michael Whatley, former GOP chairman, will be joining us. He's a Senate candidate in North Carolina right now, along with Roger Stone, who thinks about these things and has fought the global communists his entire career. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Patriot Mobile stands for America. I will be traveling with my family and going across the state of Florida. I'll be taking Patriot Mobile with me. We love staying at the Trump Hotel. So that's where we're going to go. Trump Hotel for 4th of July. And it's going to be awesome to be around fellow patriots. It's amazing to support patriotic companies and places that love this country. Patriot Mobile is the only Christian conservative wireless provider. Their 100% US-based customer support can get you switched over to their 100% mobile network, the best in America. And you can have peace of mind that you are supporting free speech, as you do when you watch this program and when you support Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. Use a promo code Benny for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT to make the switch today. Okay, let's go ahead and pop on over to Stephen Miller, who I have to get to because he's killed it last night on the birthright citizenship question. Stephen Miller on the ruling, explaining the absurdity of it, and then explaining and doing something that Republicans have to do right now, which is vision cast for what happens next. What must happen next is we have to get rid of all visas, right? Like, I mean, if the visa system is going to be weaponized against our nation, and we'll get to the Ethiopian communists that are winning in the heartland of the country here in just a minute, but it's, I say this Ethiopian, she's not an anchor baby, right? Malat Kunis, who is the Ethiopian who won in the communist who won, she was born in Ethiopia. Her dad was given a visa to come here. Chain migration, anchor children. This system is being weaponized against us. There's the same situation with Zorhan Mandami. We allow people into our nation that mean us harm, and it must stop. Doesn't matter if you're talking about September 11th, which of course, every single one of these people, one thing they have in common is they say America is to blame for September 11th. These foreign ideologies will be the undoing of our nation. And this is the new call for our show. It goes like this. The communist will either destroy all of us, and I'll see you in the gulags, or we will destroy the communist. There's only two paths. All right? Stephen Miller sees it plainly. Here we go.
This is absolutely a deep knife wound in the heart of the American Republic. Look, Jesse, I can step tomorrow onto the deck of a 747. It does not mean that I am the pilot of that plane and I'm qualified to fly it. Just physically being on U.S. soil does not make you a citizen or qualified to carry on or capable of executing the inheritance of this country. We have people from all over the world, from third world nations that on their own would have never invented the wheel, let alone modern technology, let alone medicine, let alone air travel. And they can just come into the country, have a baby at a hospital, paid for by you and me, and then that baby's automatically a citizen. That baby can sit on a jury when he turns 18 and sit in judgment of you, and sit in judgment of me, and sit in judgment of our loved ones, can decide who our mayors are, our governors are, our presidents are. Citizenship means nothing if it is open to everyone. The idea that you can have a cruise ship filled with foreigners, and they just dock at a port for an hour, and someone has a baby, Jesse, the baby's an American citizen. They can vote in every election for the rest of their lives. They can be living in a foreign country and cashing welfare checks from American citizens. Look, I know that some of the justices who worked on this, they think that they're so intelligent. There is no possible reading of the 14th Amendment that applies to foreigners with foreign loyalties, foreign citizenship, foreign obligations, foreign everything. And here's another point. Here's a pretty good clue your constitutional interpretation is wrong. If your ruling requires you to suicide your civilization, your reading of the Constitution is wrong. President Grant and the congressmen in the 19th century did not want to create an automatic third world citizenship requirement for America. It's an abomination, but let's thank President Trump, because of President Trump's courage and leadership, we are now on the precipice. Yes, we were dealt a setback, but because of his courage alone, we're on the precipice as a nation of being in a position to end this travesty once and for all. And
so if you want a white pill, and there's white pills everywhere if you know where to look, then everybody laughed and said this would be a 9-0 ruling against Donald Trump because, of course, you're doing an executive order against the words of the Constitution. And the constitutionalist court would, of course, side with the Constitution. And this is the way that the Constitution's been interpreted for 100 years. That every foreigner who breaks in to your house and has a baby suddenly has access to your house forever. And also your bank account. And also your kitchen and your refrigerator and the food for your children. Because that's what birthright citizenship is. It's the single most retarded, insufferable, suicidal policy ever devised by mankind. And it is an interpretation of the text of the Constitution. There are times where I wish I could time travel back and force them to write very specifically about what the Second Amendment means. And the 14th Amendment, all you have to do is add a line that says foreigners need not apply. This does not mean somebody visiting here becomes an American. We're talking about the children of slaves. This is a response to Dred Scott. But so be it. Stephen Miller has his righteous indignation there, and I just want to show you something that is wholly terrifying. Elections are won in this country by extremely small margins. Yes, President Trump won in a landslide. This is the 2024 election on your screen right here. President Trump won 312 of the electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 226. Kamala Harris, they say, got 75 million votes in the popular vote. Nobody believes that number, but it's unverifiable because of the way that Democrats count their votes, and Donald Trump got 77. So 49 to 48. So when people say it's a landslide, well, Donald Trump just got 2 million more votes than Kamala Harris out of 140 million, 150 million votes. That's not a lot. That's a percentage point, and that's what it shows. 1 percentage point is how Donald Trump won the popular vote. But it gets even worse. You know, in states like Iowa, Donald Trump wins, but he only won by 200,000 votes. 200,000 votes flips Iowa to Kamala Harris. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump wins by 10,000 votes, 20,000 votes. Same thing here in Michigan. Small margins, 100,000 votes. These are here in Georgia. Let's go ahead and see. So in Georgia, you would need 100,000 votes in order to put Kamala Harris ahead of Donald Trump. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of foreigners who were birthed on our soil, who are currently living and being raised across the world or have grown up and graduated and are now working in America in order to bring about communism. Hassan Piker is one of them. He's an anchor baby that was popped out in New Jersey by his parents and taken immediately back to Turkey and now can travel here, collect American welfare, become a multimillionaire, live freely, even though he was raised in Turkey as an Islamist, communist, had no connection to the United States of America, but can be airdropped here in order to seed discontent and to promote communism. And you don't think that they're creating hundreds of thousands or millions of these style communists, you're living in a bizarre world. Now, what's going to happen? They'll get mailed a ballot. They'll get mailed a ballot. Why do you think mail-in balloting is the last stand for Democrats? They'll mail a ballot to China. They'll mail a ballot to Turkey. They'll mail a ballot to Ukraine or Qatar or Iran, and they'll be able to vote. And their vote will cancel out your vote, and they'll be able to swing it. Look at this. You'll be able to swing states like easily. 100,000 votes is all you need for Kamala Harris to win Indiana. This would not be hard. Pennsylvania, the margin is very thin. 100,000 votes. You don't think there's 100,000 anchor babies? Are you kidding me? There's 100,000 anchor babies every second. If they got their way, if they reopened the border. So that's how you swing a state. And you take a couple of these swing states away and it's game over. Doesn't matter how many Republicans we have in Texas and Florida. It doesn't matter. The math doesn't work. Do you see the long game here? So yes, Medicaid and Medicare goes insolvent. We've all read Cloward Piven. We all understand that that's the goal here. Insolvency of the actual federal programs brings about communism, total wholesale collapse of the debts that the government owes to its people. That collapse then necessitates, that ushers in communism, full state control, single payer, everything. And they'll blame it on the free market when it's the government's fault in the first place. And that's the ball game. So I just laid it out. This is what they're trying to do. Democrats rocked by another socialist upset. Wake up call. Deanna DeGetti is a left-winger, a staunch progressive. 15 years in the Democrat House. Like the servant to Nancy Pelosi and the oligarchs of the Democrat Party. Didn't save her. She's out. Gotcha. See ya. You're done. You're somebody the revolution left on the side of the road in a ditch. 29-year-old Malat Kiros, a PhD student. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Perfect, right? Who was born in Ethiopia. Wow, I'm starting to see a trend here. Zorha Mandami, born in Uganda, is supporting 3 other foreign-born Democrats who ran against incumbent Democrats who were powerful, the head of the Hispanic caucus. Dan Goldman, who brought all of the impeachment charges against Donald Trump. All of them had their throats slit, metaphorically, by the jihadist movement inside of the Democrat Party. And they're road meat, dude. That's what they're doing to their Democrat superstars. That's what they're doing to their Democrat heroes. What do you think they're going to do to you? Do you understand? What do you think they're going to do to your kids? This is what they're doing to themselves. The revolution always eats itself first, right? Ooh. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, who is Malat Kiros? Who is she? Well, she's somebody who hates America. She says that America deserved September 11th. Let's start there.
Do you believe that the 9/11 terrorist attacks on America were the inevitable consequence of American foreign policy?
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response. And again, just like I said before, our responsibility is to getting rid of those conditions that lead to violence in the first place.
Do you understand what I mean when I'm talking about Western civilization? The opposite of Western civilization is justice for the guilty, cruelty to the innocent. Western civilization summarized, the Christian ethos of Western civilization is mercy to the innocent, justice to the guilty. She is sitting here saying, we, the innocent people who were attacked and slaughtered on September 11th, deserved it. Do you understand the worldview? Zohar Hamdani just closed down Rikers Island. Get me that, ALX. Zohar Hamdani just closed down Rikers Island. Do you understand what's going to happen? There, Rikers Island is one of the biggest prisons in America. It's where all of the murderers, rapists, monsters, urchins, goblins that wander the streets of New York, it's where they all live. It's famous, and he's closing it down for smaller community prisons. Cruelty to the innocent. And here we go. It's the Anchors Away, Anchor Baby podcast, where she says, no, we need to abolish ICE and give full citizenship to every single immigrant.
Abolishing ICE is just one step, right? Democrats have been in power multiple times over the last few decades and did nothing to address the immigration reform that we actually
ICE
need.
Expenditures, increased spending.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think there has to be an immediate pathway for every single undocumented immigrant that's here in this country today that does not require them to shell out thousands of dollars to go through the process, for it to take decades at a time to be able to.
Do you see that eye roll? Do you see that? Do you see what your citizenship is to these people? You see what your ancestors' sacrifices to these people? Do you see the eye roll? Look at that. Look at that eye roll. She's rolling her eyes that it costs money to become naturalized, that you have to pay fees to become an American citizen. Your citizenship means nothing to them. Your birthright means nothing to them. It's parasite mindset. They view this as conquest. You don't pay for the conquest. You just go take it. Who's stronger? She's complaining that it costs too much money for every criminal alien that flooded across illegally into your country, lying to the authorities, pillaging and raping their way through this nation. She's complaining that it's going to cost them money when they try and naturalize all 30 million of them. Do you understand the time that it is right now? And if you don't, then you need to get out, right? Like you need to delete your channels, delete your account. Either you're full bore in attacking this and this ideology, which is the existential threat to the nation, or you need to hang it up. We will abolish it. You know, it's like funny. They all look so sweet, and they coach them to have these they coach them to have these like very calm, like little thoughtful answers, right? They get this media training. And then when you actually give them a mic and a cocktail, here's what they sound like.
Wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all.
This is the voice of someone who will be putting like the Democrats and the gulag first. Like they'll all come for us, but it's Democrats first.
We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and APAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
Do you understand? Like this is the face of what's about to happen in American politics. We're either smart and we stand against it, or it conquers us. AOC is asked, hey, are you running for president? Listen to her answer.
J.D. Vance just said in an interview that he thinks you are going to be the leading Democratic candidate for president in 2028. What's your response to that?
I mean, I hope he is. That's what I'll say.
That he's the Republican nominee?
Yeah.
I hope he is. I hope he's the Democrat nominee. What are you talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, the left has shown us who they are. Do we believe them? What are we going to do about it exactly? One final thing, and then we'll get to Beau French. I'm excited to speak with him. Met him in Texas the other day. In case you need any further evidence of where the nation is headed, in case you think that I'm being hyperbolic, when I tell you that these people hate you, hate your ancestors, hate your children, and will throw them in gulags.
Math with me here. What is that? That's a 66-point difference here in terms of extremely or very. But look at this. The little or no proud to be an American actually among Democrats eclipses is greater than the extremely or very proud number. So we are just living in such a different universe if you're a Republican versus a Democrat on the basic fundamental question of being proud to be an American. You know,
are you proud to be an American? Virtually nobody is not proud to be an American in the GOP. 93% of us are extremely or very proud to be an American in the GOP. That's good. Our party is set. Democrats, more people are not proud to be an American in the Democrat Party. And you wonder why they want to humiliate us and replace us and punish us with third world migration and with global humiliation. Kamala Harris is reaching out to the socialists right now. Kamala Harris is going to stage a socialist run for president. A wake-up call for Democrats, certainly. And that is what happened yesterday. It is a good opportunity, I think, for us. I'm not a Democrat, so I don't really have to struggle or wrestle with this. And we've been predicting this for a very long time. Because I traveled the country and I went to campuses with Charlie Kirk, and we saw this. I saw this every single campus we went to. And we were on dozens a year, and you could see that many AOCs were being cooked up in laboratories all across the nation. And what you see on the college campus will metastasize into politics. Those are the politicians of tomorrow. All these PhD students, all these overeducated, totally worthless people with no actual skill, no ability to function in the real world, no real world experience. But this is their profession. Their profession is going and running and saying the buzzwords, getting trained by the Soros Group and Arabella advisors, and then getting propped up in order to be this. And this is their moment. So what are we going to do about it, ladies and gentlemen? Joining us now is a man who speaks his mind, certainly, about the issues of immigration and how they could destroy the greatest parts of America. And many of the greatest parts of America live wholesale in the state of Texas. Beau French won in a landslide for the Republican nominee, Texas Railroad Commissioner, very powerful position. It's a statewide position. It's the way Texas politics goes. This is an office that is highly sought after. And he's a man who speaks his mind. He spoke his mind yesterday about what should happen in Texas as it pertains to the birthright citizenship ruling. Beau French joins us live right now. Beau, thank you for being on the program today. I'm really glad we could make this happen. It was great seeing you at the GOP convention in Houston.
Absolutely, Benny. So glad to be here. And I mean, what a tragic day in America with that horrific ruling that came down from the Supreme Court yesterday.
Yeah, you had a post that I thought was fascinating because, as we talked about at the GOP convention, Texas is taking matters into their own hands. Like with SB 4, you as a state are saying, no, we're not going to allow criminal aliens to just reside in our state. We're actually going to deport them. And you have won in court deporting your own criminal aliens from sovereign Texas ground. Now, this should be a model for states going forward. But you went a step further yesterday saying we should just engage in nullification in Texas. What does that look like when it comes to birthright citizenship?
Yeah, I think, look, when you look at what the Democrats have done, it is clear that they are just against everything good, right, and true about America. They reject our history. They reject our people. They reject our laws and our Constitution. They reject what the framers of the Constitution said. They reject what the authors of the 14th Amendment said. I mean, they have done everything they can to diminish what it means to be an American. And what an affront to the people who've been here. My family's been here since the 1600s, fought in every major war, helped build this country. And someone who can just show up here, sneak in our country illegally, and pop out a child, and suddenly they now get all the benefits of being an American, including probably even more welfare and public support than even some of our own citizens. I've traveled the state in this campaign. I talked to young people all across Texas, and one of the main concerns they had is just this leg up that seems foreigners are getting over Texans. And so I just said very simply, Texas, we have an opportunity. We are a Republican state, we're a Republican majority state. We have the opportunity to really push back on this, what amounts to federal overreach, and just reject this notion that we're going to give all of these benefits to foreigners that even most Americans don't have access to. And I think that there is a groundswell for that. I think more people are waking up to that. And we know that the Democrats are going to do everything they can to be anti-American. The only hope to save America is within the Republican Party. Now, that doesn't mean every Republican has been perfect on these issues. We certainly have a lot of work to do within our own party. But if we're going to save America, it is going to happen within the Republican Party.
Right. So what does that look like exactly, Bo? Like, what do the solutions look like? I got frustrated to watch Stephen Miller interview last night. I was like, because Stephen Miller was like, we're going to have to do some things. And I was like, well, you got to ask a follow-up, Jesse. You got to ask, well, what are the things, right? Revoke all visas, prosecute severely birth tourism, shut down all birth tourism, maybe tax at 100% every single anchor baby that's brought. There are solutions to these things. What are the solutions that you're suggesting on a state level in Texas?
For sure. Yeah, you're right. And at the federal level, we should debank every foreigner for sure. We should enact mass deportations. But at the state level, when the federal government isn't following through on many of the things that we voted for in 2024, I think really what we need to do is just say, what are we going to do to save Texas? We could deport a lot of people from Texas. We could not let them into our country. Texas has done a pretty good job of trying to stop the illegal invasion. We could do more of that. We could crack down on companies that are hiring foreign workers. There are lots of things we could do. We could not issue birth certificates to anchor babies. So there are many things that we could do from the state level to just say, we're not going to recognize foreigners. We're going to do we're going to defend Texans and American citizens. And to me, that just should be the priority. Republicans forever have talked about we're going to be the party of low taxes and low regulation. And believe me, I am that guy also. However, none of that matters if we're being invaded by hordes of third worlders who are coming here to destroy America. They openly admit that's what they're doing. It's time we listen to them, because I just keep asking the question, what time is it in America? Do people understand what is happening? And look, I've been around, I'm 56 years old. I have watched the destruction of our culture. I've watched this onslaught and this infiltration and actually just, conquering of our culture. And so I think it's time we stand up. Not enough people are talking about this. I think yesterday was hopefully a big wake-up call, and more people are going to be talking about it. But it is time that those of us in the Republican Party stand up and fight to defend America.
So if Democrats can have sanctuary cities for illegals, couldn't we have sanctuary states for Americans?
Well, I think that's the idea, right? I mean, the beauty of America is we're sort of 50 states, kind of a friend of mine once coined the term, we're 50 laboratories of innovation. Well, I think it's time we innovate in Texas in a way that makes it clear that Texas is for Texans. It's one of the reasons why I'm running for this position in Texas. It's called the Railroad Commission, doesn't have anything to do with trains. It is the regulating agency over our oil and gas industry, which, as you know, is our largest and most important industry in Texas. We produce almost half the oil that America produces. And so I think it's, it is our birthright in Texas. We've been blessed with this incredible amount of energy. And for me, it is defending Texas, defending our oil and gas industry, and making sure that benefits Texans and Americans and not a bunch of foreigners.
So that's such a great point. And the reason I bring it up is because the way that this is going to work in my lifetime and in yours is in the next 20 years, there's going to be a bunch of voting age anchor babies that will be living in Beijing and Shanghai and Tehran, and they'll be voting in our elections unless Republican states do something to stop it. The reality is that the math works like this. Like Republican states like Texas are going to get a ton. If we run a proper census, then you'll get 5 more congressional seats in Texas. And Florida will get 4 more, and those will all be taken from California. Democrats will reduce their ability to elect a president and their power, and Republicans have to build fortresses around our states to ensure that these kind of things can't happen. Like, for instance, the mail-in balloting decision was made in Mississippi. We're that weak that Republicans have a supermajority in Mississippi and count mail-in ballots 5 days after the election. That's as bad as California. Like, we've got to get our own house in order and to protect, because what they'll do is they'll send 1 million Chinese-born communists to Texas to vote, and they'll flip the state blue. And that's how it'll happen, Bo.
Right. I mean, who would have thought, if you had told me 20 years ago that millions and millions and millions of people were going to flood into this country, that they were going to be granted every right afforded Americans, that temporary people, Haitians, and look at the Somalis in Minnesota. First of all, they're having 10 babies per woman. They were supposed to be here temporarily. Now they're all afforded American citizenship and all the benefits that most Americans can't even get. I mean, this is such an affront to Americans. And I can't even believe we're here, that we're even having this discussion. You're right. There are reportedly over 1 million Chinese who were born in America, but raised in China as communists under the Chinese Communist Party. They are eligible to vote in every election and pick our leaders. I mean, this is just, it's crazy. And I think it is surrender, really, is what's happening. And, my generation and older generations have allowed this. I don't think there's any one person to blame. You get asked that question a lot. Well, whose fault is this? Is it this president or that governor or whatever? And to me, it's a cultural issue that's really based in our Western civilization and Christian foundation. We believe the best in people. We want to help people. And the third world doesn't view life that way, right? It's to each his own. And really, if you can take advantage of someone else and you succeed, that's really their problem and not yours. And so they come here with that sort of third world mentality. And they are taking advantage of our system in a way that we never imagined. And it seems like we don't even have a way to stop it. But I say it's time that we do stop it, right? We have to fight this. I have young children. I don't want my children to be competing against a bunch of foreigners for housing, for jobs. And that's already taking place. Go ask anybody under 30 years old what it's like to try to get into college when they're competing against foreigners, what it's like getting their first job when they're competing against foreigners, what it's like getting a promotion when they're competing against foreigners and the communist Marxist ideology of DEI. I mean, it is everything they've done to hurt Americans has been done to us, and it seems like it's accelerating. And look, I don't think they understand what's going to happen in this country if we don't put a stop to it now.
So in conclusion here, Bo, what should be done in Texas to put a stop to it? Everybody's alarmed at like a new mosque a day is getting built in Texas. Texas is, of course, the landing spot for so many of these criminal aliens. They do wish to be, they're being used as biological warfare to flip Texas blue. This is the goal of the said stated goal of the Democrat Party again and again and again. Their goal is to destroy Texas, and they're doing it. And you can see this with entire cities being taken over by H-1B visas. I mean, I'm talking like the legal ones that are here, right? Not even the illegal aliens, like the legal ones. So what is to be done culturally in Texas in order to keep Texas, Texas?
Yeah, I mean, Texas is really the front line because it is the grand prize for the Red-Green Alliance. So the communists and the Islamists are all here fighting for Texas. Now, look, they're winning in places like Michigan. They're winning in places like Minnesota. They're winning in places like New York. But Texas is the next big prize. They are here. They have been here. There's been deep ties to Muslim Brotherhood here. And so they know that if they can take Texas, there is no pathway for a Republican to ever win the presidency again. And so that's why they're here. There's so much money here. We're the 8th largest economy in the world, of course. And so they know that they can attack Texas and use our culture against us, which is what they've been doing. Well, it's time we have elected leaders who understand that and who are willing to do what is necessary. I love the Donald Trump quote of, we can just do things. And what I love about that is you look back at, the last 40 or 50 years of Republicans, and there is a lot that could have been done that we just haven't done. Well, it's time we do the things that we are legally and constitutionally allowed to do. We can enforce our laws. We can deport people who aren't supposed to be here. We can deny them entry to the country. We can not provide them health care. We can not provide them social benefits. These are all things that can be done, and they should be done, and it's time our leaders step up and do it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of hate for Abbott, who I like, right? I got to meet him and chat with him, but a lot of people saying, well, why are you complaining about these Muslim cities that are being built in Texas? You're the governor. You could shut them all down. Would you be in favor of shutting these large Muslim complexes and cities that seem to be totally off the grid and creating their own judicial systems and impositions on Texas soil? Like, what's your stance on that, Bo? Hey, Bo, did I lose you?
Yeah, I think we need to just draw a hard line in the sand and say no more. We're not going to allow. Can you hear me?
I can. Sorry, there was just a slight delay. My apologies.
I think our connection's slipping. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we need to draw a hard line in the sand here in Texas. We can just say absolutely no more mosques. We need to start cracking down on the ones that are here. They all need to be investigated for money laundering, for trying to institute this sort of Sharia framework where they're working outside of our Constitution. And so these are all things that we can do in Texas, and it needs to be done because they are here trying to conquer us. We can ban halal food. We can ban, the dress. I don't believe that Islam is actually a religion. I believe it is a political structure. So this First Amendment protection that the left wants to claim that they have, I think we can work our way around that, and we should.
And so you would say ban the burqa. Is burqa banned in Texas? Has anybody tried that actually in America? I don't know. Is burqa banned in Texas?
Not yet, but it should be.
Thank you, Bo French. Everybody follow Bo. Here is his social media. He's got a banging account on X. He's a man who is a real life Taylor Sheridan.
So great to be here. Thank you very much.
Yep, real life Taylor Sheridan character. Follow Bo. Thank you. Godspeed, Bo. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next, the former RNC chairman, current Senate candidate, and a must-win seat in North Carolina, Michael Whatley, First Advantage Gold. We'll make sure that you have a golden era, a golden future, a golden America 250 celebration. We're excited for it. President Trump is off to Mount Rushmore today, actually, and he'll be giving a speech at Mount Rushmore this evening. I look forward to taking that. ALX, we're going to be taking that live. It's going to be maybe a callback to possibly my favorite Trump speech ever, which was the Mount Rushmore speech in the year 2020. An absolutely legendary speech, performance, and vision casting. And thank God that vision has come true. Your vision should be to invest in something of value. Advantage Gold can make your dreams come true, and that is a great time to buy gold. The price of gold is really attractive right now. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. Check your allocation, then get help controlling your future with Advantage Gold. Ladies and gentlemen, the man who will hopefully control the future of the North Carolina Senate, Michael Whatley, joins us live right now. I'm just going to go with Chairman Whatley. That's what I'm going to do, because I'll always call you Chairman, because you threw, which is one of the best GOP conventions in Milwaukee. And now we hear that there's going to be a new GOP convention in Dallas. This is awesome. I don't know if you had a hand in that, but I want to get your thoughts off the top here.
I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to get everybody together down there in Texas and to be able to have a conversation about what this election is about. Elections have consequences. And right now, the Republicans need to be more aggressive. We need to step up, and we need to talk about what the Democrats are putting on the table. My opponent, Roy Cooper, and the rest of the woke mob are really, truly staging an assault on American freedom right now. And we need to fight back. We need to make sure that we hold the Senate, we hold the House, and we hold the line, frankly, for America here.
Yeah, I just was alarmed, honestly, Michael, when I saw the number of criminal aliens that reside in North Carolina, in the Charlotte area. I did not know that it was such a horrific problem for your state. This birthright citizenship ruling, how is that going to shake out in the campaign?
Look, I think that we need to make sure that we're getting the illegal aliens that are in North Carolina, particularly those criminals, out. It's a shame that my opponent, Roy Cooper, is fighting hard for those criminals. He's fighting harder for illegal aliens than he is for their victims or for the people of North Carolina. Vetoed legislation that would have forced the sheriffs to honor ICE detainers and get them out. This is a huge problem that we've got down here. And Roy Cooper has done everything he can to make it decidedly worse. When we talk about the issues that matter in this election, the number one thing is the government's primary focus. The number one focus for the government has to be protecting its citizens. And Roy Cooper is an abject failure when it comes to that, when it's not just on illegal aliens, but it's putting criminals back on the streets again and again and again by putting in a revolving door of cashless bail and pretrial release, releasing thousands of criminals onto the streets to terrorize North Carolina's communities. He really, truly has worked harder every day for the criminals and for illegal aliens than he does to keep the North Carolina safe.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's directly responsible for Irina Zastruka getting slaughtered on that bus.
Yeah, no question about it. Roy Cooper allowed 4,200 criminals out of prison because he didn't want them to get COVID. 4,200 prisoners, hundreds of them had been, a felony assault, assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault, sexual assaults, rapes. 70 of them had committed murder. 53 were serving life sentences, and Roy Cooper just let them out. Of course, as soon as they hit the streets, they went right back to the life of crime. And Irina Zarutzka is probably the most famous victim on that list. The guy, DeCarlos Brown Jr., who murdered her, had been rearrested and re-released 13 more times, 14 total, before he got on the light rail car last summer and brutally murdered her. Frankly, he should have never been on the streets. He should have never been on that light rail car. Irina should be alive today, and her blood is on Roy Cooper's hands. The problem that we see is it's not just that story. There's 24 other families and 24 other victims who were killed by people that Roy Cooper released out into the streets of North Carolina, and he's never offered an explanation. He has never offered an apology to those families. It's absolutely ridiculous that he is now, going across North Carolina and auditioning for a bigger, better job in the Senate. He has absolutely no grounding to be representing the state of North Carolina in the Senate.
So are you going to hang around his neck what is happening in the Democrat Party right now? You have another 9/11 apologist that won in Colorado. His party is full scale. The Democrat Party is full scale embracing communism.
Yeah, they sure are. And Roy Cooper's been a leader on that front for years.
Please.
I mean, this is a guy as the North Carolina governor. Again, we talk about the DSA candidates who are saying that we need to get rid of prisons. Roy Cooper opened up the prison doors and let them all out. When we talk about illegal aliens and we talk about, the Joe Biden allowing 15 to 20 million of them come into North Carolina, Roy Cooper right there making sure that we're going to have sanctuary policies in North Carolina. When we talk about the inflationary spending that sent gasoline prices and grocery prices and housing prices through the roof, Roy Cooper absolutely there, vetoing tax cuts, raising taxes, making sure that he was cheerleader number one for Joe Biden's, policies when it came to that. So, you look at that mob right now, the DSA mob, that is open borders, inflationary spending, and a woke, weak America. Roy Cooper's been fighting for that his entire career.
It just seems like such a slam dunk for Republicans to ask simple questions of their Democrat opponents and say the mainstream of your party wants to abolish all prisons, wants to abolish ICE, wants to abolish all borders. Are you in favor of that? I mean, it's like this is the death knell, right, for them, is they have to answer to that wing of the party because that's where all the energy is. So if
we'd certainly love to ask that question to Roy Cooper, but the fact is he's hiding in his basement. He won't go out and talk to the people of North Carolina. He won't take any interviews from the press. And so he's ducking these exact kind of questions. And we think that they're very important about it. We want to talk about the issues. When we're running across North Carolina, I've been to 98 out of our 100 counties. We're going to knock out the other two in a couple of weeks here. But we're out there talking to the people of North Carolina about what they care about. And what they care about is making more and keeping more. They want a strong economy. They want to have a safe, kids in communities. And Roy Cooper has been a failure on that. So we're very happy to talk to Roy Cooper about that, but he's hiding in his basement and not really willing to go out and have that conversation with the voters of North Carolina.
Is there going to be debates?
I certainly hope
there's
so.
going to be debates. Yeah.
I certainly hope so. I want to have a conversation. I want to ask him, why did you release 4,200 criminals? Why did you agree, that this was a good idea? How did you pick the 4,200 that were released? Why did you release 53 people who were serving life sentences? And have you ever apologized to the victims? Have you ever apologized to their families? These are, like you said, very basic conversations that he is ducking throughout the course of this campaign.
Mr. Chairman, I know that you're hitting the road and that you are speaking to the voters of North Carolina. What do they say about birthright citizenship? What's your read on this? I personally believe that we should be making this our Roe versus Wade. This should be our decision that cuts against the will of the American people and the morals of the American people. The decision that we march forward with until we get it overturned. But I would like to see this made into a large national banner for how critically important it is for our movement to win, and explain this to the American people. What do the voters of North Carolina think?
Yeah, Justice Alito got this right. This is a dangerous ruling. It's a dangerous precedent. And frankly, the majority on that court, they got it wrong. They got it wrong in terms of their interpretation of the 14th Amendment. And they certainly got it wrong when they said that the people who are born here are going to have obligations to the United States or be subject to our jurisdiction. They're not. They're going right back overseas. They're being raised in different countries. And then, they want to, at some point, be able to show up over here and claim that they have that citizenship. This is a bad decision. We will see what President Trump and his response is going to be in terms of the executive order that got overturned. But we need to move very quickly as a country to make sure that we're not going to allow birth tourism to kind of, have the increasing trajectory that we've seen.
Are you going to make this part of your campaign to explain that this is something that reduces our American birthright and citizenship to effectively nothing?
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that we need to have, right?
How many people will vote? In your election, how many people
do.
will vote that are anchor babies? Right? So how many people that were raised will get mailed a ballot in Istanbul or Beijing and be able to vote against you?
Yeah, and we actually had lawsuits over the course of the 24 election cycle where we had people who were claiming to be North Carolina citizens and vote absentee who had never had any relationship to North Carolina. We're seeing that type of litigation that the RNC is now engaged in across the country. It's absolutely important that we get this mail-in balloting right, that we have election integrity, and we're not sending ballots all across the world to people who have no tie here into North Carolina. And I'm really glad to see the RNC is taking this fight across the country.
Ryan Ralph was one of those. This guy tried to kill Trump. He was illegally voting in North Carolina. It's like this is how bad our elections are. Like the guy who's camping out in Ukraine and in Donald Trump's golf course, and he's trying to murder the president. He's voting in North Carolina. Doesn't live there.
Yeah, what we need election integrity. We absolutely need election integrity. When I was at the RNC, we set up the first ever national election integrity campaign and made sure that we were getting the right rules of the road in place before the election started. That states are going to enforce that illegal aliens cannot vote. You have to be an American citizen to vote. That's the law of the land right now. States need to enforce it. They need voter ID. They need to make sure that they're cleaning up the voter rolls and that we have protections on mail-in ballots. And I'm really proud of the program that we were able to build at the RNC. Laura Trump, Pam Bondi, Matt Whitaker, and Kash Patel and I went all across the country, recruited 23,500 volunteers and 6,500 attorneys to make sure that in every precinct, we were there whenever a vote was cast or counted.
What about the RNC losing, because of Amy Coney Barrett, of course, the voter decision this week at the Supreme Court? Oh, yeah, you can just count infinity votes. for infinity timelines. It's a horrible decision.
It is a horrible decision, and the fact is that we need to know that Election Day is Election Day. And I'm glad that Tate Reeves has said that the state of Mississippi is going to go ahead and tighten up their rules. But we need in every single state to understand Election Day is Election Day. And certainly there is early voting, and that's okay as long as people do it before Election Day. Those mail-in ballots have got to be in. And it's a very disappointing decision that we saw from the Supreme Court on that. But we got to continue to fight every single day for election integrity and make sure that when people go vote, that they know their vote is actually going to count.
Final question, because of course you were in charge of the RNC and the 2024 election, and we saw how close some of those margins were. And this birthright citizenship decision seems to cut directly at those margins, meaning all you would need to flip a state like Iowa is like 20,000 votes. And you can flip these swing states quickly with 100,000 votes here or there. And that's what seems to be the strategy now. It's a long-term strategy. But why else would you bring 1 million Chinese people here and then go raise them under communism, if not to vote in American elections?
Yeah, and certainly you've got to have a nexus with a state if you're going to vote, right? And that's what the litigation that we're talking about right now has to prove, is that, you have a nexus to North Carolina if you're overseas and you're going to vote in North Carolina or in any other state. But of course, in states like California, New York, and others where they are so lax on their election safeguards, that this is something that could be a huge problem for them. And I think that we need to do everything we can right now to make sure that our borders are going to be secure, that we're going to see a federal push, on birth tourism. I think that there needs to be a conversation in Congress about that. And I think that the national dialogue needs to be really focused on, ensuring that we're not going to ever see an open border like Joe Biden did, where he brought 15 to 20 million illegal aliens into the United States, including hundreds of thousands of criminals and thousands of murderers. Thank God Trump has shut down that border. The president has now for 13 consecutive months, 0 illegal aliens that have come across that border and allowed into the United States. That needs to continue. We need to codify those rules so that no matter who is the president, we are going to have safe and secure borders. And I'm certainly going to fight on that every step of the way. The Democrats, including my opponent, Roy Cooper, they're going to fight every day for open borders and illegal aliens.
Godspeed, Michael Whatley, and we are rooting for you in the great state of North Carolina. This shouldn't even be a race given the history of Roy Cooper in that state, but unfortunately, Democrats see North Carolina as a crown jewel. They want to take it, and they want to destroy it. And so this is the man standing against that. Perhaps we'll see you in Dallas at the midterm RNC convention.
We will absolutely be there. Hope you have a great 4th and celebrate America's 250th anniversary of being the greatest nation in the history of the world.
Godspeed, Michael Whatley. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, right on over to Roger Stone, a man who knows what it's like to fight a Marxist. He's done so his entire career. Here we go. Roger, how do you defeat the global Marxist movement?
First of all, you never give up and you recognize what it is. So when people call themselves democratic socialists, they're not socialists at all. They're communists, and therefore they're Marxists. The most striking thing, Benny, is the fundamental change in the two-party system. In other words, the old Democrat Party, the party of John Kennedy, the party of Harry Truman, they believed in God. They believed in the free enterprise system. They believed in capitalism. They believed in a strong national defense. Now, perhaps they wanted to tax us a bit more. They wanted to spend a bit more, but they were still fundamentally patriotic Americans. They weren't out to rebuild our entire system, to remake America. This new wave of Democrats aren't Democrats, small d, at all. They're Marxists. And if I were Chuck Schumer, I'd be very, very nervous right now because, for example, if AOC challenges Chuck Schumer in New York State for his Senate seat, she will beat him in the Democrat primary. The corporate Democrat wing, the corporate liberal wing of the Democrat Party is finished. The new leaders of that party are Tlaib and AOC and Ilhan Omar and that pompous old windbag Bernie Sanders.
What is to be made of how we could use this opportunity to push the Democrat Party into a permanent minority? Because I believe that to be the strategy. What decisions must be made and done by the right in order to ensure that outcome?
Well, first of all, the president's doing this just over the last couple of days. He's been very, very strong in terms of calling them out. Don't let them pose as just reformers. In other words, take the election in New York City of Mamdani as mayor. Many of the voters who voted for him voted for hope and change. They didn't really understand what that hope and change was. It just sounds like something better. It's like a utopia. It's the way Barack Obama was elected president. I think members of my own family may have voted for him on this idea that he was some kind of reformer, that the government would become more honest, more accountable, when in fact their agenda is far more radical than that. So the president is out there openly saying, look, these people are communists. I've been preparing to fight for them my entire life. And I think he's already drawing the battle lines for this November's election in that sense.
You've known Donald Trump for close to 50 years. You've seen these battles against communists. What does Trump mean when he says, I've been preparing for this?
He's going to call them out. I mean, he's going to say exactly what the stark differences are here. Don't let them pose as moderates. Don't let them pose as reformers. I still think we have a number of advantages going into the midterm elections. I am not one who's ready to throw in the towel. I'm not a panicking. I actually think we're going to do quite well. I think we could gain seats in the House. I'm confident about holding the Senate. I disagree with Steve Bannon. I think said yesterday that he thought we would lose the Senate. I don't agree with that. First of all, in politics, a week is a lifetime, and this election is not tomorrow. So I think he's going to be very direct in his attacks on the new Democrat Party. He's going to be very direct in terms of drawing the battle lines. And then, Benny, I have to say, in the last week, it's been kind of a heartening thing to have the vice president achieve something that I've been trying to achieve for 30 years, and that is to point out that those institutions that tried very hard to take down Donald Trump are the exact same institutions that did illicitly remove Richard Nixon in a coup. Now, it shows you both the power of the vice presidency. I've written 2 books on the subject, The Nixon Secrets, The Rise, Fall, and Untold Truth about Watergate and the Nixon Pardon. Second book, Tricky Dick, The Rise, Fall, and Rise of Richard M. Nixon. I've been banging away on this in public for 30 years. Tucker Carlson did one great show on it. But by and large, the American people just buy this narrative that Nixon was corrupt, and so on. But what we now know, and which the vice president has highlighted, is classified documents now show us that the Central Intelligence Agency was well aware of the Watergate break-in before it happened. That 4 of the 8 burglars were actually on the active payroll of the CIA at the time of the break-in. That John Dean's testimony before the Senate, his testimony before the the Watergate prosecutors, and his books all contradicted each other, which he could have been prosecuted for, because he is the man who devised, pushed, covered up, and lied to Nixon for the next 19 months about the break-in. Why is this important? Well, because what we really learned, and we learned this in the last 6 months, is just as they were spying on Donald Trump, using the FISA warrants to do so, the military-industrial complex, specifically the Joint Chiefs were spying on Richard Nixon. This is very much an analogous situation, important to me because once you sweep Watergate aside, you can look at the accomplishments of the Nixon administration. Strategic arms limitations, open the door to China at a time that China is a dirt poor, backwards, agrarian society with no technology, with an unimpressive military, very little indoor plumbing, no electricity in the rural areas. It's not until 30 years later that Bill Clinton and then George Bush give them most favored nation trading status, which is what makes them the military danger they are today. So we have something going on online. Monica Crowley and I, a great friend of mine, we both worked for President Nixon, very happy about this revisiting of what happened in Watergate and the Nixon record.
Nixon maxing is something that is trending now with Zoomers, and that's got to be very interesting for you to see Nixon totally rehabilitated and revitalized, and for people to be returning perhaps to the man who won the biggest landslide in American history, modern American history, electorally. Why did the CIA take out your boss?
Because for the same reason they tried to take out Donald Trump, because he was for peace, because he did not want endless war. War is very, very profitable. So Nixon wanted to end the war in Vietnam. The defense contractors and the military certainly didn't want to do that. He wanted a strategic arms limitation agreement with the Soviets, which he got, but only by skillfully playing them off against the Chinese. So Nixon's greatest single, I think, threat to the system was a plan that's reflected in his biography, also in the diaries of his chief of staff, Bob Haldeman, to completely reorganize our intelligence agencies. Nixon knew, and there's a tape that proves this, that the Central Intelligence Agency had been involved in the murder of John Kennedy. There is an Oval Office tape that is a conversation between President Nixon and Richard Helms, the CIA director, in which he says, and I quote, "I know who shot John." There it is, right there. So he was the man who knew too much. He had gotten too independent. He was about to reorganize our intelligence agencies, and he was fundamentally for peace. So like Trump, he had to go.
Something a little off topic, but I'm seeing a lot of MK Ultra headlines because there is a hearing yesterday. Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna talking about MK Ultra and the programs, and some pretty alarming testimony there. Have you ever come into contact with any of these, any of these programs? You believe that they exist? Have you been, potentially under mind control by the CIA, or known anyone who has?
I don't think so, but it would explain some of the crazy things I've done. On a serious note, when MK Ultra was first exposed by the Washington Post in 1974, Richard Helms, the CIA director, had all, or what we thought were all, of the records destroyed. I give enormous credit to Anna Paulina Luna and to my friend Tim Burchett for bringing this information forward. I have always believed, for example, that Sirhan, the man who I think was incorrectly convicted of killing Senator Robert F. Kennedy, was under the control of MK Ultra. This is why in his prison cell, he's writing in a notebook over and over again, "Kennedy must die, Kennedy must die, Kennedy must die." I think there's some evidence that Jack Ruby may have been under the control of MK Ultra. So the problem, of course, is that many, but not all, but many of these records have been destroyed. I will say this, Anna Paulina Luna has been a bulldog in terms of forcing the Central Intelligence Agency to turn up records that they had forgotten to turn up in her investigation into John F. Kennedy's murder. And I think it's important that they bring these things out now.
I mean, with so much evil that is packed into the CIA, it just seems like the through line. You talk about the death of the Democrat Party, like the last true Democrat was JFK, and they killed that style of patriotic, America-loving Democrat with him. And then, of course, they went about destroying your former boss, and then then President Trump. They haven't been able to get exactly there yet with President Trump. Do you worry about the president? given what you know about the capacity of the deep state?
I pray for his safety every single day. Look, they have tried at least 3 times to kill him, maybe 4 if you count that one guy who went to Mar-a-Lago on a weekend that he wasn't there, but still, broke into the perimeter with a shotgun. So yes, I pray for his safety every day. The one you leave out, of course, is I'm convinced that the attempt to kill President Ronald Reagan, I believe that was also a deep state operation, putting the final touches on a book on that subject now. By the way, there is no formal public report from our government about that. And I can tell you, having researched for this book, when you file a Freedom of Information Act request, virtually everything they give you is redacted, virtually everything. So I think that there is a history. I think there's a direct line between the murder of JFK, who, with his brother Robert, was an ardent, hardline anti-communist. The removal of Richard Nixon, too soon to kill him, it would have been obvious. So they take him down in a silent coup. They attempt to kill Reagan. They fail, and they attempt to both impeach and remove and kill Donald Trump. These are the same institutions. These may not be the same individuals, but they are the same interests.
All these men are fighting communists. All these men are fighting the communist movement here in America. So why does the CIA seek to defend communists?
Look, I think you have a rogue element of government. It's interesting to me that Dwight Eisenhower, who was elected president the year I was born, he tried to warn us about this in his famous speech, in which he pinpoints the accumulation of power by the military-industrial complex. All of those presidents we named, in a way, they all put America first. So I think this is more about less about ideology and more about the accumulation of control and power over the American people. I think there are deep, deep secrets. And again, I give huge credit to Anna Paulina Luna, particularly, and also to Tulsi Gabbard in their dogged efforts to bring a lot of this information public over the objections of the permanent government in place. Presidents come and presidents go. I've been around a long time, but the permanent government remains in place.
Yeah, this is why the Slaughter decision was so important at the Supreme Court. President Trump can start gutting and firing at will those who exercise executive power. I think it's a huge decision that I think a lot of people miss. Tulsi, I know, is a very close ally of yours. What do you make of her departure? Obviously, we're praying for her husband. That's a bad role, man, getting cancer. But there were also some institutional frictions, obviously, with Tulsi and what she was doing. What went on there, Roger?
There's no question that she was fighting a fight for greater public disclosure, and she was under attack from many elements of the political establishment, some within our own party, but others outside. On the other hand, there is no question that her husband, Abe, has a very serious cancer, and she had to choose between this all-consuming fight and her family, and she chose her family. I would think less of her if she hadn't chosen that, if she had chosen power over her husband, power over her family. I communicated with her yesterday. He has a long, long record to recovery. So she's not finished by any means. She's not done. I think her greatest public service lies ahead. Does that mean that she's running for president in 2028? I don't think so. But I do think she's far from finished when it comes to the fight for freedom and the fight for full disclosure of what's happened in this country.
So yes, that's been some of the speculation that Tulsi would run for president in 2028 and that you'd be her advisor. And you're saying that no decision has been made yet, but she's not done.
First of all, she hasn't asked me to do anything of the kind. I have said that I believe she will be president someday. That doesn't mean 2028. I mean, first of all, our party, by tradition, we don't dump sitting vice presidents, whether they're George H.W. Bush, whether they're Richard Nixon. So J.D. Vance is still the strong front runner for our Republican presidential nomination. the Secretary of State would be an attractive candidate. Marco Rubio, I've supported him before since he challenged Charlie Crist for the Senate, but he continues to say, and I take him at his word, that he's not planning to be a candidate, not going to be a candidate. The good thing here is we have a wealth of potential candidates. The Democrats have Gavin Newsom, J.D. Pritzker, Kamala Harris, AOC. That's not much of a bench.
Who do you want to see run for the Democrat Party?
I'd love to have a rematch with Kamala because I see no evidence whatsoever that she has improved as a candidate. She still makes no sense in her public comments. Every time she answers a question, it's a word salad. I don't see any improvement in her skills as a candidate. And frankly, she'd be the front runner, having spent tens of millions of dollars, if not billions, in the last election. Now, our party is pretty well heeled at this point. Our fundraising has gone extremely well. The Democrats are broke. In fact, they're in debt. But I'd be happy with that. On the other hand, Gavin Newsom seems to be consumed with his own scandals. I mean, millions of dollars missing in housing money, for which there's been no improvement in the homelessness situation, and steering millions of dollars to these various nonprofits controlled by his wife. So to the extent that he carries the torch for what I call the corporate liberal wing of their party, I think he's a very vulnerable candidate. What would be his slogan? Could be kind of like Mike Dukakis. He'll do for America what he's done for California. God forbid.
Would Tulsi Gabbard be J.D. Vance's vice president?
Well, I think it's time for a woman candidate on the Republican ticket. She would be a great candidate for vice president if she were asked to do that. That, of course, would depend upon the health situation with her husband. 2 years is a very long time, but that's certainly a possibility. Look, I am just extraordinarily impressed with her political skills. She's extremely sure-footed. She's extremely cautious. I've never seen her say anything that she could not document. I think she has that elusive quality of charisma. I think that we're lucky that she was once a Democrat, then an independent, and now a Trump Republican. And I think she has a great, great future ahead of her.
Yeah, man. She ripped the bark off of Kamala Harris in those debates, and Joe Biden too. And she just went full savage mode, and it was so awesome to see. It's amazing. Those are some of my, my favorite debates, I suppose. The most entertaining debates were the Republican debates of 2016. But my favorite debates from a political standpoint were probably Tulsi's performances in the Democrat debates of 2020. It was really neat to see them called out to their face.
Yeah, she's completely fearless. This is one of the things that I admire about her. And look, I'm glad she's a Republican now. I think she's got a great future. But I'm also a great admirer of the vice president. It's very tough to shine in that job because your most effective work is done behind the scenes. The vice president, any vice president, but this one included, doesn't get credit for the many things that they do because they're not publicly known. I think J.D. Vance is extraordinarily effective inside this administration, but also extraordinarily effective as a public spokesman. Witness the way that he's opened this entire discussion within the last week about the analogy between the way Nixon was taken down by the deep state and the way they tried to take Donald Trump down. I've been saying this for 30 years. Nobody pays attention. The vice president says it at the Nixon Library, and it was a major news cycle, as you know.
Yeah, it's a long time coming. And it's something that you have predicted. And Roger Stone, your predictions are often right. That's why we bring you on, the crystal ball. So I guess we'll see what happens. I'm not a doomer. I think we're in a really good spot right now. I think we need to, I think that the socialism and communism embrace is a tactical, horrific error from a crumbling party that has nothing to offer. So they're just getting desperate for power, and it's going to destroy them. I think they're going to be, in the next 50 years, I think the Democrat Party will be a 20% party nationwide, and will be unelectable outside of some very small depressed pockets. That's my take. Roger, thank you. Godspeed. Everybody follow Roger Stone. You probably already are. Any parting words for the 4th of July, Roger?
Sure. Happy 250th birthday. And you can follow me at stonezone.com. Check it out.
Here's Roger's social media right there. He's got 1 million subscribers on X. Godspeed, Roger. Happy 4th of July.
God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's in your wallet? Rumble Wallet is a spectacular app that you can use in order to contribute to the creator economy, also contribute to the crypto or alternative economy. Everything made out of paper is reduced to paper. And ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be a partner on Rumble. We love our Rumble audience. You can download Rumble Wallet today for a limited time. When you start your wallet, you can be among the first to activate and receive $10 of U.S. stablecoin by downloading the wallet today. Enter my exclusive promo code Benny10, wallet.rumble.com/Benny. Benny10 will get you $10 of U.S. stablecoin for a limited time. Offer until August 14th. So act now. Terms and conditions do apply. Get started with Rumble Wallet today and take control of your money. Ladies and gentlemen, exciting. I guess we'll be seeing you in Dallas. The Republican Party hosts a historic midterm convention. This is the big announcement. And ALX has corrected me. Donald Trump will be in North Dakota today and not doing the Mount Rushmore speech. ALX, are you sure there's nothing for visiting Mount Rushmore? You sure he's not visiting Mount Rushmore at all? Did I just hallucinate that? I've been known to manifest. I've been known to wish cast. And so maybe that's what's happening here. ALX, correct me though, Donald Trump speaking in North Dakota today, not South Dakota. Tomorrow he's going to the fireworks. All right. Well, okay. So tomorrow he's going to the fireworks in South Dakota. All right. So I was right. That was just a day early. That's fine. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and check the market, since I obviously can't check the president's timing on these things. Which state will use the new congressional maps in the midterms? This is an interesting one. Today's going to the Roosevelt Library. That's cool. Is that open by now? Okay. We could have won the redistricting war. It makes me so angry. We could win. We could have won the war. All we needed were 2 seats. Indiana could have done it. South Carolina could have done it. Mississippi is given another seat. Louisiana is given an extra seat. It's a different, man, it's a different ecosystem now in our party and in theirs. And so it's time to lock in and understand where the fight is. The fight is against the communists. So fight on with us, ladies and gentlemen. Fight on through the only way that we'll actually win, which is our faith and trust in God. Galatians 5:1, our verse of the day. For it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm and do not let yourselves be burdened again by the yoke of slavery. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm. What a wonderful verse. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. The purpose of Christ's life is to liberate us from the old laws, the old commandments, the old covenants, and to uplift us into a life of liberty. And if there's any country on earth that's been rightly founded on these principles, it's ours. And so it's worth preserving. It's as much worth preserving as any of the Christian tenets, because this nation has a Christian government. It's a crazy thing to say because we can see the people occupying that government, but we have a Christian government. And it is wholly inadequate for an immoral people or an unrighteous people. And we've seen that those frictions today and constantly. And so on America's 250th birthday, and we have some big announcements coming up about that, and on our Independence Day, I charge between you and I and all patriots to remain in control. to save this place, to save it for the ultimate purpose, the creation of more Christians, more families, more Americans, and to preserve our citizenship and our birthright. By God, we will have our country back. It's your boy, Benny. Happy 4th of July. Happy America 250. See ya.
It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.